A freighter's legacy. Eddard Stark was the first owner of the Millenium Falcon. Chapter 1. The Discovery. The icy winds of the north howled across the snow-covered landscape, whipping through the ancient pines that stood sentinel over Winterfell's hunting grounds. Lord Eddard Stark, wrapped in thick furs, trudged through knee-deep snow, his breath forming misty clouds in the frigid air. His keen eyes scanned the terrain for signs of game, but something else caught his attention, a glint of metal, incongruous amidst the pristine white.
Hold, there's something strange ahead.
His raised hand halted the hunting party. Eddard approached the anomaly, his brow furrowed in confusion. As he drew nearer, the shape became clearer, massive, disc-like structure, half buried in the snow. Its hull, battered and scored, bore the marks of a journey beyond imagination.
By the old gods and the new, what manner of contraption is this?
He circled the vessel, marveling at its alien design. Curved mandibles jutted from its front, while a cockpit nestled between them like a cyclops' eye. Eddard's gloved hand brushed away snow, revealing faded lettering he couldn't decipher.
What is it?
I'm not certain, Jory, but it's unlike anything I've ever seen. This is no craft of the Seven Kingdoms.
Eddard's mind raced with possibilities. This was no creation of the Seven Kingdoms, nor any land he knew of. Its very presence hinted at realms beyond their world, at technologies that defied comprehension.
We need to investigate further. Jory, take the men back to Winterfell. Speak of this to no one.
But, my lord.
That's an order, Castle. I'll return shortly. Trust me in this.
As his men reluctantly departed, Eddard circled the craft once more. He found what appeared to be an entrance ramp buried beneath the snow. With effort, he cleared enough to trigger its mechanism. The ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics, revealing a dark interior.
Seven hells. This is beyond anything I could have imagined.
Eddard stepped inside, his eyes adjusting to the gloom. The interior was a maze of corridors and compartments, filled with blinking lights and unfamiliar machinery. In what he assumed was the cockpit, he found seats sized for human occupants, though the controls were beyond his comprehension.
What manner of ship are you, and from what distant realm do you hail?
His fingers traced the worn leather of the pilot's seat, feeling the weight of countless journeys. Despite its battered exterior, Eddard sensed the vessel's potential, a sleeping giant waiting to be awakened.
I cannot leave you here to rot. You're far too valuable, too miraculous to abandon.
The decision crystallized in his mind. This ship, whatever its origin, could not be abandoned to the elements. With a final glance around the cockpit, Eddard exited the craft, his mind already formulating plans.
I'll return. You have my word. Your secrets will not be lost to the snows of the north.
Over the following weeks, Eddard made clandestine trips to the crash site. He enlisted the help of Mikken, Winterfell's blacksmith, sworn to secrecy. Together, they slowly unearthed the ship and began rudimentary repairs.
My lord, I've never seen metals like these. They're lighter than steel, yet stronger.
Aye, and the craftsmanship. It's beyond anything in the Seven Kingdoms. This vessel holds knowledge we can scarcely comprehend.
As they worked, Eddard's fascination grew. He pored over the ship's systems, gradually deciphering its purpose and capabilities. In the quiet hours before dawn, he'd sit in the cockpit, imagining soaring through the stars.
The Millennium Falcon, that's what I'll call you. A name befitting your majesty and mystery. Months passed, and the restoration progressed in secret. Eddard's absences didn't go unnoticed, however. Caitlin confronted him one evening in their chambers.
Ned, what aren't you telling me? You disappear for hours, return covered in grease and metal shavings.
Cat, too, can't explain just yet. But I promise, when the time is right, I'll show you everything. Trust in me, as you always have.
Caitlin's eyes narrowed, but she nodded, trusting her husband despite her misgivings. Eddard felt a pang of guilt, but the pull of the Falcon was too strong to resist. Finally, after countless hours of work, Eddard believed the ship was ready for a test. Under the cover of a moonless night, he made his way to the hidden clearing where the Falcon rested.
Let's see what you can do, old girl. Show me the wonders you've witnessed.
He settled into the pilot's seat, his hands hovering over the controls. With a deep breath, he activated the main power. The ship hummed to life, lights flickering across the console. Eddard's heart raced as he grasped the control yoke.
Steady now. We'll take this slowly, one step at a time.
His fingers brushed against an unfamiliar switch. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. A blinding light engulfed the cockpit. Eddard felt a sensation of weightlessness, of being stretched and compressed simultaneously.
What in the name of by the gods? What's happening?
In a flash, both Eddard and the Millennium Falcon vanished from Winterfell, leaving behind only a swirling vortex of snow where they had been. Miles away, in the castle,
Ned, where are you? Something's terribly wrong.
but Lord Eddard Stark was gone, hurtling through the stars towards an adventure beyond his wildest imaginings. Chapter 2. A galaxy far, far away. The Millennium Falcon hurtled through a kaleidoscope of stars, its lone occupant clinging desperately to the pilot's seat. Lord Eddard Stark's eyes widened in disbelief as streaks of light blazed past the viewport, his knuckles white against the unfamiliar controls.
By the old gods and the new, what sorcery is this? How can such wonders exist?
The ship shuddered violently, then lurched to a halt. The star lines collapsed into pinpricks, and Ned found himself staring at a sight beyond comprehension. A planet-wide city sprawled before him, gleaming towers stretching endlessly into the sky. Countless vessels of shapes and sizes he'd never imagined swarmed around the metal world, like fireflies on a summer's eve.
Impossible. This defies all reason and logic. Am I dreaming?
His wonderment was cut short as the ship's sensors blared a warning. A sleek, arrow-shaped vessel approached, its pilot's voice crackling through the Falcon's comm system.
Unidentified YT 1300. You have entered restricted airspace. State your purpose and transmit clearance codes immediately.
Ned fumbled with the unfamiliar controls, panic rising in his throat.
I know not of what you speak. Please, I am Lord Eddard Stark of Winterfell, and I find myself most grievously lost.
It was a long pause then.
Prepare to be escorted to a secure landing pad. Any deviation from our flight path will be met with immediate force.
The Falcon shuddered as a tractor beam locked on, guiding it towards a bustling spaceport. Ned's heart raced as he took in the impossibly tall structures and vehicles that defied gravity itself. As the ship touched down, he steeled himself for whatever challenges this alien world might bring.
I am a Stark of Winterfell. I will face this with honor, come what may. The North remembers, and so shall I.
The boarding ramp lowered with a hiss, revealing a scene straight out of a fever dream. Beings of every conceivable shape, size, and color bustled about the landing pad. Some had multiple limbs, others sported vibrant plumage or glistening scales. Ned's hand instinctively went to his sword, only to find empty air where ice should have been.
Step out of the vessel, slowly. Hands where we can see them.
Ned complied, his legs trembling slightly as he descended the ramp. A group of stern-faced individuals in crisp uniforms approached, led by a human with a severe expression.
I am Captain Pelayan of the Imperial Navy. You claim to be unfamiliar with our protocols, yet you pilot a modified UIT freighter Shrouf. Explain yourself.
My lord, I speak true. I am Eddard Stark, Warden of the North and Lord of Winterfell. This vessel, I found it buried in the snows of my land. I know not how I came to be here.
Pelian's eyes narrowed, studying Ned with unnerving intensity.
Your attire and manner of speech are indeed unusual. Perhaps a more thorough investigation is in order. Follow me.
As they walked through the spaceport, Ned's senses were assaulted by sights, sounds, and smells beyond imagining. Holographic advertisements flickered to life, hawking wares from 1,000 worlds. Droids of every description scurried about their business, causing Ned to stumble in shock.
7 hells. Are these some manner of golem? How do they move without strings or handlers?
Interesting. You truly are unfamiliar with even basic technology. This complicates matters.
They entered a Stark interrogation room, where Ned spent hours recounting his tale to increasingly skeptical officials. Just as frustration threatened to overwhelm him, the door slid open with a soft hiss.
Captain Pelian, I believe I may be of assistance here.
A stern-looking man in a crisp gray uniform entered, his posture rigid and eyes sharp.
I am Admiral Voss Park, I've reviewed the preliminary reports, and this situation requires special handling.
Indeed, Admiral. What do you propose?
Lord Stark's arrival coincides with reports of unusual energy signatures in the unknown regions. I believe the Emperor would be most interested in this development.
Ned's head spun, struggling to comprehend talk of emperors in unknown regions. Yet something in Park's words sent a chill down his spine, echoing the old tales of the others beyond the wall.
My lords, I assure you I mean no harm. I seek only to return home to my family and my people.
And we shall assist you, Lord Stark. But first, there is much you must learn about our galaxy. The path home may be long, but I sense it will be a journey of great importance to the Empire.
As Ned followed Pelion and Park out into the bustling corridors of Coruscant, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had changed irrevocably. Whatever trials lay ahead, he would face them with the same honor and determination that had guided him through the harsh winters of the North. Let me expand on the story significantly. Chapter 3, The Return, final chapter. The Millennium Falcon's engines thrummed with a palpable sense of anticipation as Ned Stark and Admiral Vos Park prepared for their perilous journey through uncharted space. The cockpit, a symphony of blinking lights and humming machinery, buzzed with frenetic activity as they meticulously input coordinates and ran final system checks.
Remember, Lord Stark, trust in the Empire's technology. It will guide us true.
Aye, though I still struggle to comprehend this galaxy, I'll put my faith in it, and in you, Admiral.
Ned's calloused hands, more accustomed to the hilt of a greatsword than the sleek controls before him, gripped the yoke with a mixture of trepidation and determination. His gray eyes, usually as unyielding as Valyrian steel, now betrayed a hint of uncertainty as they flicked between the myriad of displays and readouts.
The calculations are complete. Are you ready to make the jump to hyperspace?
As ready as I'll ever be for Winterfell, for home.
With a deep breath that seemed to carry the weight of worlds, Ned engaged the hyperdrive. The stars outside the viewport stretched into brilliant lines of light, and the Falcon lurched forward with a force that pressed them back into their seats. They plunged into the swirling vortex of hyperspace, leaving behind the familiar constellations of the galaxy far, far away.
By the old gods and the new.
As they hurtled through the cosmic tapestry, Ned's mind wandered to the extraordinary events of the past months. The wonders he'd witnessed on Coruscant, a planet-wide city that defied imagination. The allies he'd made among the Empire's ranks, despite his initial mistrust. And the profound truths he'd uncovered about the vastness of existence, which made the squabbles of Westerosi lords seem petty in comparison.
Your thoughts dwell on your family?
Aye, Caitlin, the children. I wonder how much time has passed in Westeros. Will they even recognize me?
Time flows differently across the galaxy, Lord Stark. But fear not, the Empire has ways of setting things right.
Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship, their shrill cries piercing through the relative calm of the cockpit. The Falcon shuddered violently, metal groaning as if threatening to tear itself apart.
What's happening?
We're passing through a gravitational anomaly. Brace yourself.
The ship bucked and twisted, straining against forces beyond comprehension. Ned's knuckles turned white as he fought to maintain control, his years of horsemanship translating surprisingly well to this metal steed.
Come on, old girl. Hold together.
With a final bone-jarring lurch that sent loose items clattering across the deck, the Falcon burst free of the anomaly. The familiar blue-green orb of Westeros filled the view screen, a sight that brought tears to Ned's eyes.
We made it. We're home. Phone.
The Empire's technology has served us well, my friend.
As they began their descent through the atmosphere, Ned's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The familiar landscape of the north unfolded beneath them, a patchwork of dense forests, rolling hills, and snow-capped mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see.
There, Winterfell.
The ancient stronghold of House Stark stood proud against the horizon, its gray stone walls a testament to the endurance of his people. Ned guided the Falcon to a secluded clearing just beyond the castle walls, his hands steady despite the emotions roiling within him.
Remember, Lord Stark, the knowledge you've gained could change the course of your world's history. Use it wisely.
I understand. Thank you, Admiral, for everything.
As they disembarked, Ned was struck by the crisp, familiar air of the north. He breathed deeply, savoring the scent of pine and snow, a stark contrast to the recycled air of Coruscant.
I never thought I'd smell this again.
The sound of approaching horses drew their attention. A party of Stark guards, led by the grizzled master at arms, Sir Roderick Castle, thundered into view, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and joy, or
My lord, is it truly you?
Aye, Roderick, I've returned.
But you've been gone barely 3 days. We feared the worst when you vanished during the hunt.
Ned exchanged a surprised glance with Park. 3 days, it seemed the vagaries of space-time had worked in mysterious ways.
Much has happened, old friend, but tell me, how fares my family?
They await you anxiously in the Great Hall, my lord, my lord.
As they rode towards Winterfell, Ned's mind raced. How could he explain his journey, the wonders he'd seen, the potential threats that loomed beyond the stars? Gong, Dao, death.
Trust your instincts, Ned. The truth will reveal itself in time.
The gates of Winterfell swung open with a familiar creak, and a chorus of cheers erupted from the assembled household. Caitlin Stark stood at the forefront, her auburn hair catching the weak northern sun, her eyes glistening with unshed tears.
Ned! Oh, thank the gods.
As Ned embraced his wife and children, feeling the warmth of their bodies against his, he made a decision. The galaxy's secrets would remain his burden to bear, for now.
I'm home, Cat. That's all that matters.
Later that night, under the cover of darkness, Ned and Park guided the Millennium Falcon into the depths of the Winterfell crypts. The ship's bulk barely fit through the ancient passages, its metal hull scraping against stone walls that had stood for thousands of years.
Here she'll rest until the day comes when we might need her again.
A wise decision. The galaxy will find its way to your world eventually, Ned. When it does, you'll be ready.
As they sealed the hidden chamber, Ned Stark felt the weight of his newfound knowledge settle upon his shoulders. He was no longer just the warden of the North, but a guardian of secrets that could reshape the very fabric of his world.
Winter is coming, Admiral, and with it changes beyond imagining.
With a final nod to Park, Ned ascended the steps of the crypt, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring. The Millennium Falcon waited silently in the darkness, a beacon of hope and a harbinger of things to come.